where does it come from then? Where does this $1,014 come? Who provides the financing? Because you see, our firm has more current assets than current liabilities. And the difference is 1,014. So where is it coming from? What's the source of it? What do you think? If these two sources are not meeting these needs, then the difference will come from here and or here. So in other words, our firm is using long-term, these are long-term sources of funding, to finance its current assets. How much? 1,014 coming from long-term. Is it good or bad? What do you think? Is it good or bad? Any thoughts? Bad? Okay. Why bad? Okay, here is your answer. Which source is cheaper? Long-term or short-term? Long-term loans or short-term loans? Which is cheaper? Short-term is cheaper. So they are cheaper than these loans. Okay, so when our firm is unable to finance all its current assets from, these sources, then our firm is depending on long-term sources of funding, and long-term sources of funding are more expensive. Okay, so here is a lesson for you if you're managing a business, okay? Now, see if you can manage with short-term loans, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, holding everything else constant, if you have a choice, use short-term loans, not long-term. Long-term are more expensive. But if risk is high, you see, long-term loans are safer for you, right? Short-term loans are riskier for you, for a business owner. Why? Because you have to repay the loan and maybe refinance, you don't want to keep doing it. So, see, as I said, holding everything else as constant, you want to use short-term funding if possible. In some cases it may not be possible because short-term funding is cheaper than long-term funding. So here, this is how I would like to summarize it. If there are two firms, okay, identical firms, same businesses, one firm is using this much money from long-term sources, shareholders and lenders, they require a higher rate of return. And the other firm is using 500, okay, from long-term sources. I would say this firm, which is using less from long-term sources, is more efficient, holding everything else constant. Okay, so because they come at a higher price, these long-term funds come at a higher price. Anyone has any questions or thoughts? Okay, you must have heard the term net worth. Net worth. What is net worth? Net worth is the same thing as stockholders' equity, shareholders' equity. Okay, what is Mr. Trump's net worth? Have you heard of it? Mr. Trump is a very rich person. Okay, by all accounts, Of course, nobody knows exactly how much, his net worth is, so how do you find a person's net worth? Is there a formula for that? What is your net worth? What is my net worth? If you want to borrow money from a bank, it's a personal loan, the bank would like to know what your net worth is. This is how you calculate net worth. You take all your assets, everything that you own, your house, your car, your condominium, a piece of land you have somewhere, some gold, silver, stocks, bonds, everything together. And then take out any loans that you have. All loans, short-term, long-term, loans. And the difference is what you're worth. That's what net worth is. So if somebody says Bezos is worth $100 and some billion, then this is how you come up with his net worth. You take all of what he has, subtract from it what he owes, the loans he owes, take everything out, and the difference is net worth. And it's the same thing as shareholders' equity. You don't have to make the calculation, but you can. So your bank, for example, will ask you if you're a business and you're applying for a loan. Your bank will say, okay, bring us your statements, financial statements. You know, they'll take a look at this side to find what your net worth is. And where do you find? It's given to you. Where do you find the net worth? This here. This is the owner's account. Shareholders' equity. This is the net worth. And you'll come up with the same number by using the formula. Which formula? Total assets minus total liabilities. So where are total assets? These are total assets, 3112. Okay. Total liabilities, we have total liabilities here. This plus this, which is minus 843, and you will get the same answer that you see here, 2269. So I'm showing you, if a party's balance sheet is not available, how to estimate, how to find that party's net worth, or owner's equity, or shareholders' equity, one and the same thing. You can take it from the balance sheet, and if the balance sheet is not available, you take total assets, this is total assets, minus total liabilities. Remember, this plus this, we added this here, and this gives you 2269. Any questions? All right, moving on then.